Hi, everyone.
Hello.
I hope you can see me. My two colleagues, Dr. Natascha Radclyffe-Thomas and Dr. Mirsini Trigoni, are also with us, and they'll be taking some of the questions at the end of the presentation in case you'd like to ask some questions about our project. So I'm going to try and share my screen with you. Just bear with me for a second. Right, can you see that?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I will take you through the project that we did. So this project is called Time to Care versus Shop Online. So how fashion and beauty brands responded to the COVID-19 situation. So this is actually part of an ongoing research. What we are presenting in here is just a little summary of what we did. We've also posted a LinkedIn article for those of you interested in knowing more about this project, and we are now working on the full submission, the extended journal submission for this particular project. So just in terms of what we did, so we all know how COVID-19 has impacted the fashion industry. It's something that we've been discussing here all morning, and also we've all been through a couple of other webinars where this topic was approached. So fashion weeks have been cancelled, our consumption levels have dropped. We've seen a lot of different players not making it through these uncertainty. So basically in general, we have brands trying to adapt to a new reality.
Anna, sorry, is it okay that we have black screen or not really?
Sorry?
Because it's black, the black presentation. Is it the slide or we have, the screen is black, your side?
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Can you see it now?
No.
Okay.
You are, oh yes, now we can.
You can see it now, so maybe it's the full screen.
No,
all right.
Again, we can't.
Can you see it now?
We can, yes.
Okay, so I think it's the full screen that doesn't seem to be working. Apologies for that. So I was just talking a little bit about the context, how brands have had to adapt and shift their strategies and their business models to make sure that they are ensuring the sustainability of their structures. So within that also comes a way of finding new ways of communicating to consumers. And because social media has been, especially Instagram, has been the preferred channel for fashion brands to engage with consumers, we've decided to look at how brands have responded to the current situation. So can you see the next slide? Is this okay?
Yes, we can.
Yes, perfect. Okay, so in terms of methodology, we have, so we've had a look at the different charts. So we've had a look at Interbrand's top 100 global brands, as well as the brand's top brands charts. And in total, we looked at 40 brands, and those 40 brands were spread across luxury, fashion apparel, and beauty. So you've got a snapshot there, you've got a screenshot there of some of the brands we've looked at. And we had a collection period of a total of 8 weeks from the 11th of March until the 21st of March. Sorry, the 21st of May, not March, there's a typo in there. So this is a total of 8 weeks. So we've looked at all the posts, all the Instagram posts that these brands have shared throughout these 8 weeks, and we've analyzed and systematically coded these particular posts. So I'll take you through some of the findings when it comes to luxury. It was actually quite surprising that the majority of the luxury brands did not really adapt or changed their content strategy. So, we did have the hashtag stay safe, the hashtag stay at home, but actually they didn't change that much in terms of their overall content and the communication pillars that they had. So, as you know, with luxury brands, it's always about communicating this very aspirational way of living, collection information, art, creativity, craftsmanship, heritage. So they actually maintain that way of communicating with the insertion of the hashtags. And this was the case for a lot of brands. So for example, Tiffany, Cartier, Burberry, and Hermes didn't have a huge pool of posts related directly at the COVID-19. We were obviously aware by looking at other sources that these companies have been very active outside of social media. So they were actually, they were providing protective gear to healthcare workers. They were repurposing their atelier, repurposing their factories to produce surgical and non-surgical masks. They were funding research. They were actually donating to charity. So there was all this amount of activity going on outside of Instagram, but actually in terms of what they were communicating to their followers, this was not being communicated to that extent. There are some exceptions, obviously, and I'll take you through some of them. Gucci has been the brand that we felt was the more active brand. And what is interesting about Gucci is that it's not so much that they were the ones that actually posted the most, but more importantly, they were the ones that actually took more risks in terms of content. So the content they posted was actually very different to the normal aesthetics that you see on an Instagram feed of a luxury brand. So we've got some screenshot in there of 6 of their posts. And as you can see, they were resharing information from the World Health Organization. It was all about keeping their consumers informed about the activities, how to prevent the virus, how to share information. So what they really wanted to do is to create this global community where everyone kind of had the chance to be a change maker and also stand together in this time of crisis. They had an interesting hashtag, the Gucci community, where they partnered with a variety of different artists, and these artists were actually shooting themselves at home, like taking photos and taking videos of themselves at home and sharing that with messages of empathy, well-being, different types of advice. So Gucci has been an interesting case study for us to look at because of how different the imagery and the aesthetics of the feed was throughout these 8 weeks. I'll now move on to the fashion apparel category. So this category, and I mean, if you remember the screenshot we had of Interbrand's top 100 global brands, is quite dominated by sportswear and athleisure. So we had brands like Nike, Adidas, Under Armour, etc. So I think this post from Nike was particularly famous, the Play for the World. Adidas also had a variety of different posts engaging and trying to make consumers engage in home workouts, yoga practices. Levi's as well was one of the brands we looked at, also looked at this kind of sense of community and having a variety of different music events that were all about, staying home, but staying connected. On the other hand, we also had brands like Zara and Uniqlo that did not post that much about the situation that was happening, but this also translates the fact that actually consumers from Zara and Uniqlo follow the brand much more due to this transactional relationship that they have with the brand. So there wasn't this sense of community spread that much within these particular brands. The third category was looking at beauty, and beauty as well was quite interesting because they were very active outside of social media. So they were also, supporting healthcare workers, practitioners, and communities. They were giving some of their profits back to different organizations, and they were posting this like hashtag time to care from the Body Shop. They were quite active in donating products and gift bags, etc. And then some brands did not engage at all, as with the case of luxury and apparel, and then other brands engaged in quite a supportive and caring approach. So Maybelline, that you see the post in there, actually was all about protecting each other's and ourselves, so making sure that we are isolated, but we're not alone. So they had this positive message coming through. So I know I've got 1 minute, just to summarize all the different segments. So we've looked at, as I said, luxury, fashion, apparel, and beauty. And in total, out of these 40 brands, we can summarize the initial findings, and this is not by any means the final findings of that the article will have, but 5 different angles were the ones that seemed to gather the most consensus amongst the 3 of us. Well-being and positivity, educational aspect, community building, the backstage, so offering kind of insights into the backstage of the brand, and then operational things like, you know, updates on the brand and store. So these were the five different angles when we started coding that we could find. So in summary, I think the reason why we also wanted to bring this project to you is just to highlight that actually brands have to find ways and creative ways of reaching and engaging with their customers, because obviously they saw themselves deprived of physical channels. So the online and the digital took an even bigger role. And in a way, how they've responded to this crisis also showed us that actually we all have a joint opportunity to reset the fashion system and help to build a system or a way of working that is much more sustainable and much more future ready. So it's all about how brands want to be remembered and also how they want to take consumers with them on that journey. So this is basically just a very quick overview of the project that we did. And my colleagues who are also attending in here will also help me take some questions now at the end. So thank you so much for giving us a chance to present.
Thank you, Anna. Anna, yes, speaker and co-speakers, Natascha and Mirsini are also with us today.
Correct.
Comments and questions. Okay. Hello. Right. Well, I'm looking at our chat. Any hands? So, well, not at the moment.
Okay.
It seems like, yes, we probably just have something later. And oh, yeah, we have some. Anna Anisimova is actually has raised her hand.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Found.
I have a very tricky question, Anna. Do you think that those companies who didn't engage with the consumers during this pandemic, they lost sort of a chance? I understand it's a bit tricky to talk about it from this perspective, but from my understanding, it was a fantastic opportunity to get engaged. So do you think they did a mistake if they didn't really use this chance to sort of talk about their perspectives on that? And thank you.
Would any of my colleagues like to answer, or should I go? I'm not sure if their mics are.
Hello.
Oh, hi, Natascha.
Hi. Yeah, I could say so a little bit. Yeah, thank you so much for the presentation, Anna. Yeah, I think in terms of missed opportunities, some of the brands, I think as Anna already said, it was more about the relationship that they already have with their consumers. And so maybe they didn't really feel that they knew what to say or how to say it. And I think what we saw through the over the weeks was someone like H&M that started off not really engaging, and then their engagement grew. So I think some of the brands just took a moment to get started. Most of them started the same, and then some of them just decided it wasn't really the story, or maybe not the platform, because we were looking specifically at Instagram. And as I think Anna might have mentioned, some of the brands were definitely engaged in activities, but they didn't choose to share that content on Instagram if it didn't really suit the mood of their feed.
I can also add something in there, Anna, because I think you've raised a really interesting point about, is this a missed opportunity or not? Was this a missed opportunity to engage? I think in general, what we are seeing, and this is also part of the underpinning theory behind our research, is that consumers want to be more involved, but they also want brands to actually take a stand, and they want brands to be more active in terms of their purpose and make sure that actually that purpose aligns, or all their activities align with the purpose. So with that in mind, I do think that there's there are some brands that have always been very vocal about their values, their mission, their purpose, and having a very strong social kind of like a social purpose underpinning their activities, but actually they don't actually do that much when it comes to that. So I think in a way, those brands, when we look at the current moment that we are facing, if they're not doing that, then that's a missed opportunity, and that is something that consumers will remember. I mean, there's this ongoing issue at the moment on Instagram. I'm not sure if you follow Diet Prada, with reformation and the whole movement, the Black Lives Matter, and how they're not being true to their purpose and to their mission. So I think, or to at least to what they used to say about the brand. So it's interesting because I think nowadays with social media, it became a lot easier to unpack if the brands are actually being true to their commitments or not.
Thank you. We have a question from Claire Rose.
In Britain, as I'm sure the speakers know, Burberry has famously been involved in making PPE, gowns and scrubs and so on for the NHS. Do the speakers for this paper have any thoughts about how that's going to impact their reputation, either positively or potentially negatively, since they're actually using their luxury workrooms to produce very utilitarian items?
Would you like me to go, Natascha? Or?
I could say a little bit. I think I think in general, positive actions that are helping and supporting are not that controversial, where it's seen as as a genuine move towards, supporting healthcare workers. I think that's been fairly well accepted. I think it's more when things don't align with the brand's values. And I think it's probably been more problematic for some of the fast fashion brands, where they're making statements about being supportive, but actually there's also a counter conversation going on at the moment around their big negative impact on the climate. So I think some of these are really complicated conversations, which is possibly why some of the brands have chosen not to share this specific content on their Instagram. And I think maybe for the beauty brands that might be a different thing, because they were more closely aligned maybe with hygiene and well-being and health. So maybe for them it's an easier switch to talk about that.
Thank you.
Yes, and if I can add something here, I think also about, hello from Athens, and thank you for attending our presentation. If I can add something here also, is that obviously beauty brands goes much easier to adapt their message because it's everything about hygiene and it goes in your hands right now. But also I think it was a very good opportunity for beauty brands that have ethical and sustainable approach and very much about community-based strategy to reinforce this message under the COVID-19. And that's why we saw brands like the Body Shop or Yves Rocher reinforcing this message and using their brand values to promote, to have a positive message throughout these 2 months that we're researching.
Thank you. Thank you, Mirsini, right? Okay, yes. Thank you so much for your presentation. And I think, yes, we are going to move on to our next speaker. Thank you so much.